So Jordan, remember with the bear in the area, we got to follow proper safety protocol. You play dead. I'm gonna run while you play dead, and that's what you're supposed to do, okay? Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. It's Chris Nichols here, and I'm in the driver's seat today, driving Jordan's big, manly truck. And we're going out to the mountains of Kananaskis because we're doing a little bit of a travel log today because we're playing with a very appropriate lens. It's a brand new Tamron 28-200 full frame lens, 2.8-5.6. We have it on Sony E-Mount, and we're gonna take it on A7R3, just have some fun out here in the mountains and see what we get. So for our first stop, we're at Barrier Lake. Beautiful, right? Really nice scene, nice weather today. Lights, you know, Now first off, if you've used any of the other Tamron primes or zooms, this has the exact same look and feel. And it's interesting to see that uniformity across the whole line. Very similar feel to the zoom and manual focus rings, which we liked on the other models. And we still have the same 67mm filter thread. So it seems like Tamron's kind of pushing you to maybe buy their whole line of lenses, and it'd be a very easy, very convenient experience for you, which is, you know, a positive thing. This lens is, like many of the others, weather sealed. It does have a very rugged feel, and yet it is very compact and balances very nicely. Now, when I say light and compact, I mean it. I mean, this lens is only 576 grams. That's roughly a quarter of a Nikkor Noct. We'll just today make it 576 pounds in weight, if that works for you as well. So grams or pounds, interchangeable. And, you know, I do like that it's so compact, especially for a travel lens. So whenever we do lens tests, I always endeavor to shoot as much as possible at ISO 100 so as not to have the camera's low light performance or high ISO capabilities interfere with the quality of the lens. However, we don't have great light today. This lens is, you know, can push to 200mm, which is fairly telephoto, and so I'm finding I am having to actually push my ISO higher to get faster shutter speeds in order to get consistently sharp images. And that's because although I've got IBIS in the body, we do not have any image stabilization built into the lens, and that is unfortunate, especially with telephotos where IBIS just isn't as effective in a lot of cases. I really wish today that this lens did have image stabilization. It would give me some better consistency with handheld shots, but unfortunately, I guess it would make the cost higher. The lens would probably be larger too. Now this scraggly old evergreen tree against this bright white cloud-filled sky actually presents itself a very nice test. You know, on these lenses, when we talk about chromatic aberration, we often talk about longitudinal chromatic aberration, which is where your background might go one color, your foreground autofocus goes another. But honestly, on slower zooms, that's not really much of an issue, so we don't test it here today. But chromatic aberration, which is not normally an issue, where you get kind of a purple fringe or magenta fringe or sometimes a green fringe amongst especially high contrast subjects against light skies, usually isn't a problem in a lot of modern lenses. But here, as you can see in the sample photo, it's very purple and it really spreads across a lot of those tree branches. It's pretty rough. Now, yes, this is an easier kind of aberration for software, whether it's in camera while it's processing JPEGs or in post afterwards, to get rid of, but it is worth note that there's quite a bit. And we're getting a light rain, we're gonna get this all day, but it does give us water droplets on leaves, and you can't pass by water droplets on leaves, right? So I took a couple shots here, one at 28mm, one at 200 at the minimum focusing distances. Now, first off, at the wide end, you're getting about 19 centimeters. At the telephoto range, you're getting about 80 centimeters. So that's like 22 light years versus 88 light years, if that makes it easy for you guys to understand. In the grand scheme of things, when I actually do my minimum focus, my magnification's fairly similar. I would say that the wide angle shot does get me just slightly closer in, and I do like the look of wide angle macros. You know, pushing that background away just tends to look more dynamic. So Jordan, next we're gonna check out the Mount Lorette Ponds. Always lovely. No, I did not bring a fishing rod. Look at that, beautiful. Here we have the Alberta rose, our provincial flower, which just so perfectly captures our strong pioneering spirit, our hard work ethic, and yet our incredibly delicate natures and insecurities. So Tamron has tried something different with this lens. They have gone more conservative with the focal range. 28-200 is still versatile, absolutely, and I love the 28mm focal length myself, but I do feel like a 24 is quite a bit more useful and versatile in a travel lens, especially if you want to do more landscapes and things like that. You know, the main competition to this lens in the Sony E-Mount is going to be the FE24-240, which beats this lens on both ends, telephoto and wide angle. However, the Tamron does do something a little bit different here. We get a 2.8 to 5.6 aperture range, as opposed to what a lot of lenses, the FE included, are going to be more like a 3.5 to 6.3, or even in some cases 4 to 6.3. So the Tamron's 2/3 of a stop brighter at the wide angle, 1/3 of a stop brighter at the telephoto. That's the sort of trade-off. And I do love 28-2.8. I think that's going to be awesome. It's nice to maybe get a little bit more thinner depth of field at the telephoto range, although you could argue with the Sony, I could push that to 240 at 6.3 and get something pretty similar. Now, when we tested a lot of the newer Tamron lenses, one thing that we noticed was that autofocusing speed was a little bit on the slow side. So I'm happy to say, actually, with this 28-200, the autofocusing speed's not amazing, but it's pretty usable, and I'm finding that for a lens like this, which I'm going to travel with, I'm not really hampered by the delay from front to back, you know, near to far. So yeah, it's a nice plus to have. I don't know if it's a new motor, but it works better. You know, when it comes to Sunstars and Bokeh, honestly, it really makes sense for a lens of this kind of formulation. You don't expect a lot from super zooms. You know, you can see here the Sunstar. It's all right, it's fine, right? You know, and same thing with Bokeh. I do find the background, although I love having the 2.8 aperture at 28mm and really pushing that background away, making it soft, I do find that the overall appearance of out-of-focus areas on this lens can sometimes be a little bit harsh, a little bit busy, but again, not bad, just very middle of the road, which is kind of what you expect out of a formula like this, frankly. You know, we always pass by this abandoned gas station on the way out of the mountains. We never take pictures of it, so we thought, why not use it for a resolution test here today on the 28-200. Now, what we like to use is shots at both the widest part of the focal length and the most telephoto, although I did shoot some stuff at 100mm as well, which you can see on DPReview.com and download for yourself. So first off, at 28mm, it is great that we get a 2.8 aperture. That's pretty awesome. Centers are decent. Corners, that you can see some softness, and really when you stop down to 5.6, they start to improve. They're still not perfect. Now, what I will say is when you're shooting at 28mm stop down, like classic landscapes with lots of depth of field, it's actually very consistent right across the frame, and that is very useful for those kind of shots. When we shot at 200, I actually feel on this particular model, it was actually a little bit sharper than the 28mm. At 5.6, the centers are very good. Corners, though, still need some improvement, and you can see here when we go to f8, those corners do start to improve quite a bit. Overall, this lens is sharp for a super zoom. It's not going to be the sharpest lens out there, but honestly, it's quite acceptable quality for the price point. I think if you can stop it down, you're going to get very good results, and shooting wide open in the centers is still very decent, so as long as you don't need good corners, I think you'll get away with it. So in the end, I think the Tamron 28-200 really does accomplish what a super zoom is trying to be. It's compact, it's affordable, it's convenient range, easy to carry around, and it is rugged and sealed well. So, you know, that ticks a lot of boxes. I'd have no problem using a 28-200 for a lot of travels and trips, but I do feel that, yeah, maybe you might find that you want a longer focal length than that. But one thing that is unique about this that I do like is we get wider apertures than you would normally find on a super zoom lens. Now, for video work as well, It seems to be nice. We are getting actually fairly minimal breathing, so I could see this definitely being a versatile video lens you could travel with as well. So how are you going to know if this lens is going to be good for you? Well, really the main issues I see here, sharpness-wise, it's actually very respectable for a super zoom, but no, this is not going to be the sharpest lens in your lineup. I think it's better suited on a 24 megapixel sensor. Today we're using it on the A7R3's 42.6 megapixel sensor, and I can see the limitations there. And again, what further exacerbates that is just the fact that we don't have any sort of image stabilization in the lens. And there was a lot of situations where either I had to crank up my ISO to get that sharpness back, but get a bit of noise, or I had to reshoot the photo over and over trying to get a nice sharp picture. Now, most of the Sony mirrorless bodies have you covered there. There is even rumor, we have nothing solid yet, but that Tamron might actually make this lens for other lens mounts. I could see this being very at home on something like a Nikon Z6 or Z7 with their excellent image stabilization in body. But certainly check out DPReview.com. There's a couple sample galleries from our shoot and from the staff there in Seattle. Also, again, Instagram, Twitter, and please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate that. See you guys soon.